Adventures of the Decepticons Pet Ghost by Played Crowd 5610. Part 3 of Hunting the Nemesis. Chapter 2. Small hands make light work. Summary. Starscream goes to the medbay and Danny ends up learning some cyberian biology. Knockout sighed dramatically as he watched Starscream limp into the medbay. Really, Starscream? I just patched you up from that cave-in a week ago. You can't seriously need attention again? Starscream snarled, flashing his fangs. I will have you know, this is still part of that incident. You must have messed something up doing your expert care, Doctor. A new, smaller voice chimed in. He was pacing and his knee just gave out. Knockout's optics flickered down to the smaller human, clutched in Starscream's servers. Starscream, did you really have to bring your pet here? You're introducing foreign contamination into my lab. It was bad enough when you brought that thing with you in your subspace last time. Knockout crossed his arms over his chest plate. The human glared up at him, mirroring the crossed arms. Well, I'm the one who made him come, thank you very much. And I'm not leaving until I know he will be fine. Knockout sneered. Delightful. He turned his back to them and pulled out some tool. Lay on the medical berth while I take a look at it. Starscream took a few pained steps forward and dropped the human haphazardly on the counter next to Knockout's medical tools. The human stumbled forward but didn't say anything in retaliation, and only sat down cross-legged to watch over Starscream. Knockout didn't waste time focusing on the human and just turned to start looking at Starscream's knee. His optics narrowed as he examined Starscream's knee joint. He made an extravagated tapping noise. Well, what do we have here? It looks like a bolt slipped, not to mention some stress fractures. Starscream huffed, his wings twitching in irritation against the medical bed he was laid on. Knockout sighed as he pinched up one of his stools from the counter and turned back towards Starscream. After this, you will need to keep pressure off your leg for 2 solar cycles. Good luck getting him to sit still for more than 10 minutes, the human spoke. I swear, all he does is pace and rant about his plans. Starscream tilted his helmet to the side to look at the human. I don't recall asking your opinion, Flashling. The human threw his hands to the side. Hey, I'm just saying. And if you didn't stunt around like a bird on stilts all the time, maybe your knee wouldn't have imploded. Starscream rolled his optics at the human's comment. Knockout scoffed. How do you put up with this thing? Even though he was secretly smirking at the comment. I have a name, you know? It didn't occur to Knockout that he ever did learn the human's designation, but he would rather do anything else than ask the human for it. When the human noticed that Starscream wasn't going to ask, he rolled his eyes. Danny, my name is Danny. The human, Danny, then gestured towards Starscream. He's been trying to get rid of me for months. I'm like a parasite. Knockout transformed his service into a buzzer and held it close to the human. Then allow me to try as well. Starscream made a strangled noise behind him, but the human didn't so much as flinch at the show of aggression. Starscream spoke up. Stop threatening the human and do your job, Knockout. Knockout sighed and retracted the buzzer with a dramatic florism. Fine. Now, if you will excuse me, I have real work to do, and your little commentary is making this job harder, Fleshy. Danny rolled his eyes and leaned back as Knockout bent down over Starscream and gripped tight to the joint to bend it to the right angle before pulling out one of his other tools. Out the side of his optic, he saw the human walk closer to the edge of the counter to try and get a better angle of what Knockout was working on. What exactly are you doing with his knee anyway? He tilted his helmet, Knockout guessed. The human called it a head to the side. Knockout paused, genuinely surprised at the human's interest, his optics flickering over to Danny, and he couldn't resist a small smirk. Oh? Interested, are we? Well, since you're clearly dying to know, yes, this bolt connects the joint to the lower stud. Starscream's stress fractures have weakened the metal around it, which is why his knee gave out. The human squinted, trying to follow along. So, it's like when a human sprains the ankle? And the ligaments around it weaken? Knockout shrugged, not 100% sure how accurate the human's analogy was, seeing as Knockout didn't know scrap about human biology, as he tried to stay away from them as much as possible. Close enough, I suppose. Except with Cybertronians, we don't have ligaments. It's all metal and circuitry. Right now, I'm replacing the damaged components and reinforcing them with new plating, he explained idly. Then he looked intrigued, his gaze fixed on the tech in Knockout service. And the tool? It just looks like a big soldering iron. Knockout raised an optic ridge. This is a plasma reelder. I'm using it to seal these fractures. Starscream groaned from the berth, wings flickering again in annoyance. Do you two mind? I'm the one in need of medical attention here. Danny grinned. Yeah, we get it. Big scary mech in pain. Hold your horses. Knockout couldn't help but chuckle at that before turning down again to continue his work. After working a bit longer and getting the bolt back into place, he picked up a container of sealant and placed it down on the medical berth. Knockout huffed, looking at the joint again, annoyed at how small the Seeker's joint were and how hard it was to get a service under the plating. It would be much easier if Starscream weren't such a lanky mech, or if Knockout service were smaller. He glanced over at the human, sitting down again, but this time he had his hands dangling over the edge of the counter, swaying back and forth as he looked on. Then again, human, if you're so eager to learn, I might as well put you to work. Danny blinked in surprise. Wait, you want me to help? Knockout shrugged casually, as if it were no big deal. Why not? If you're going to stay here and pester me, you might as well make yourself useful. Besides, Starscream's less likely to kick you in the face if you touch the wrong circuit. Starscream shot them both a skeptical look before turning to face Knockout directly. Are you seriously passing your job off to the human? Knockout leaned on the bath and closer to Starscream. I mean, unless you like the feeling of my digits pressing under your plating, then sure, the human is smaller and it will be less uncomfortable. That, and there was the added bonus of Knockout not having to get that stuff on his service again. Starscream simply huffed and crossed his arms over his chest as he tilted his helmet to the roof. The human jumped off of the counter and landed with a running start on the medbay. Stumbling forward, he saw Starscream wince slightly at the human's leap across the gap. Then he whistled closer to Knockout and towards Starscream's knee. Okay, what do I do, Doc? Take the sealant and put it under the plating over the parts I just wheeled. It will keep it together and help with the nanobot healing process. Knockout explained. The human simply nodded and reached up to the container, which was almost as tall as him, and pulled out some of the sealant in a big goop in his hands. Turning back to Starscream, Starscream stayed perfectly still during the application, probably trying not to crush the human's fragile fingers in the joint. Then he stepped back after applying it and looking up at Knockout, who scoffed and turned his helmet away. Not bad for a squishy, he muttered. Maybe you're not as useless as I thought. Then he smirked. High praises coming from you. Does this mean I'm officially going to be a new Decepticon pet lab assistant? Knockout scoffed. Please, I already have my assistant. You are just lucky he was out on a mission today. I don't want any more of your car-born based human filth in my lab. He paused, glancing down at the Seeker on the table and back towards the human. Though, I suppose you can work on Starscream whenever he comes in. Maybe then you can do a scrap on your own. And I don't have to deal with him anymore. Starscream sat up off the berth. If I had it my way, neither of you would be rooting around my systems. Yet, here we are. Starscream was ignored as the human addressed Knockout. If that will be the case, can I have some data pads on Cybertronian biology, specifically Seekers? I will try and read up before our next inevitable Starscream injury. The human cocked a hip. Knockout put his servers to his chin. I will see what I can find. Then, maybe one day you will actually make a useful second assistant. The human merely chuckled. Starscream groaned again. Primus, spare me. If you two are done bonding, I'd like to get out of here before the next solar circle. Cool your jets, heels. I'm coming, the human responded, looking up at the Seeker, who simply picked the human up and tried to balance on one leg. Knockout did one last viral scan over Starscream and waved him off. Just make sure to stay off of that leg as much as possible for the next 2 solar cycles. Starscream muttered something in response, which didn't quite meet Knockout's audios, but the human shouted out a response. I will try my best to keep him off it. Knockout, thanks again. He then waved over Starscream's shoulder that he had climbed up onto. That really is one strange human.